gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite
Again.
Chris, the Herons are back. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 145 of the Battered Herons podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada, and alongside me, before I get to you, Chris, I want to give you props. You did a great job holding down the show. I want to give props to everybody in the chat. Also, you guys are the yesterday second, today third host, and awesome job. I watched it back today because yesterday in traffic it was. I didn't turn it on. I was pissed. And we're going to get into all that. But I did want to start the show by giving props to Chris because he did a tremendous job with everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody that joined him in the chat. You guys did a great job also. So shout out to everybody in my absence. And back to it. Mr. KBD, how are you doing, sir?
Listen, so Lucas is asking here, so you're not an AI? I told everybody on a video, which there was a great question right after the podcast finished, and I told everybody that you're a hologram, but I guess everybody could tell that you're not a hologram, or maybe you are.
No.
Who knows?
No. It's me. I am here. I'm gonna get into it. I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't join last night because there's a good chance it just would have been a lot of ranting. Because I was really, really in a bad mood last night. So I'm kind of glad I didn't join. Even though people always criticize me because they say I'm constantly ranting. So I'm glad that I didn't join. One quick personal note before we get into last night and then tonight. My wife, awesome. As always, she came through and she brought me a cake. And I'm going to tell you why. So this cake right here is our 2-year anniversary. My wife and I, we sat down on the couch 2 years ago on this day, February 22nd, 2022, and we came up with this Battered Fans idea. We kind of mapped it out how we would do it, and funny story, we contacted Chris to do a podcast for the Knicks. At no point did I consider Chris doing a soccer podcast, but here we are 2 years later. Battered Fans is growing strong. We got plenty of shows going on from the Heat, Marlins, Jets, Dolphins, all that other stuff. Obviously, Battered Herons always. And so thank you to my wife. Love you. This was an awesome thing. 2 years to the day that we started the whole Battered Fans idea. And yes, Chris was supposed to do a basketball podcast. And here we are 2 years later with the soccer podcast. So I just wanted to put that out there. Shout out to my wife. Love her very much. All right. Last night was good on the pitch. But one, I cannot wait for this stadium to be in Miami. Having to go ahead, and it took me 2 hours to get to the stadium yesterday. I left at 5 o'clock. I got there past 7. And then heading back home, I got in my car and I wasn't able to leave my parking spot, not the parking lot, my parking spot for half an hour. It took me almost over an hour to get out of the parking lot. It's a disaster. It's an absolute that parking situation is a disaster. And that wasn't even the worst part. I spent over a half hour trying to get coffee. Why? Is Bustelo still an official sponsor for Inter Miami?
Yes.
It is.
They are.
Bustelo, Inter Miami is making you look like shit. Horrible. I went there and the Bustelo coffee machine was not working. How do you have a coffee stand and you don't have working coffee machines? And then it took me like 20 minutes to get a refund because they needed a supervisor. Yesterday was a fucking mess. It was a mess. It was a mess. I was in a bad mood. They ruined the game day experience for me.
Well, I mean, look, if you have the real abuelitas making the coffee, then you'd have the real abuelitas cleaning the coffee machines, and we wouldn't have.
They could have done it with their hands. They could have made it with their hands.
They would have built a whole coffee machine for you with their bare hands.
Yeah. So look, my experience off the pitch, it sucked ass. But all in all, on the pitch, good result. We started with a win 2-0. And I heard the show. I heard a lot of people talking. I thought that I would say a couple things. For some reason, you had Redondo in a bathroom with drug paraphernalia. I don't know how that happened. So I don't think that he's in the bathroom with drug paraphernalia.
I think he
Gressel,
is.
I watched the game back. Gressel, I think, played better than what people are giving him credit for. He did have some really bad turnovers, but I felt like when he was on the final third, he looked good. When he was on his own third, he looked absolutely awful. So there has to be some type of middle ground there. What else?
And this
good.
This is a good opinion here by Johnny Depp. Arsenal guy was blocking traffic. Absolute gold. Yes. We haven't seen Arsenal since. We haven't seen Arsenal guys since he came on here and started spamming the chat, but he probably was blocking traffic with his
he got tired of us blocking him, period.
Yeah.
And then I mean, all in all, I thought it was a decent performance. I saw some people killing Suarez, saying that Campana should get more time. I thought Suarez played well.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I thought he was making the appropriate runs. He was taking defenders with him, making the diagonal passes. I thought our defense looked worse than people are saying. I thought that Real Salt Lake didn't take advantage of a lot of opportunities. There was a moment there where Chicho Arango got upset at his teammates for not making runs because the way our defense was, like that back line always plays so high. There was moments there where if they were being aggressive, they could have ran behind our back line. And Chicho Arango was yelling at his teammates at some point in the first half because they had opportunities. But all in all, I mean, we won 2-0, so really can't complain.
Listen, it's like what, Lucas is mentioning. The Suarez movement was key. Listen, there was a play where Danny was mentioning how Suarez was like driving people crazy on every corner that we had. And the way that he plays, like it's great. I think that his physicality and how grimy he is, because he's a grimy ass dude. And AZ is mentioning if he got an assist.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So I mean, look, it's not like this guy was like absolutely awful. And Ziad is mentioning here the team looked rusty. There's a lot of talent though. It needs more time. Like I mentioned yesterday, we're starting the season, so
And today's episode, we're not going to talk too much about yesterday because you guys did that for an hour, and we're going to talk about the LA Galaxy. But one last thing I did want to bring up is I love the starting 11. I did. No, and GFR, no, that was my wife that came to pick up the cake. So I was not winking at myself. All right. I lost my train of thought. Thank you, GFR. Oh, the starting 11.
Yes.
The top three. Taylor, Suarez, and Messi, I'm happy with. Are you happy with the top three?
Yeah, I'm happy with it, of course.
The front three, I thought great.
Yeah.
Alba and Yerlin, I thought looked fine. I thought Toto Aviles had a good game. I thought that he was getting his legs in on some balls. I thought he did great. Christoph, I mean, he's slow. Nothing's going to change that, but I didn't think
he's slow and solid.
Right. So, and then eventually Freire is going to come in and take that spot. And then the midfield. Busquets, I'm happy with. Gomez, Chris, shut the fuck up. Gomez is good. And then we had Gressel. Gressel was the only spot that I saw people were like, I'm not too happy with. But if you think about it, if we get Redondo, you're going to take Gressel out and you put in Redondo in that spot. Tell me how you're unhappy with this starting 11. This is a solid team from top to bottom. And if you tell me, oh, this team still has holes, name me a team that doesn't. And today we have a guest from the Galaxy that's going to join us in a second. But name me a team that has come on here, because for those of you that watch us on a regular basis, before every game, we have a guest from the opposing team's podcast come and we ask them the same question towards the end. Name me your team's weakness. And they all have an answer. None of them had come and said, oh, we have no weakness. Every team, especially in the MLS, every team has a weakness. So, yes, we have a hole. We have a hole at center back. I think Toto Aviles is good. That other center back position maybe isn't great. But that's not just us. With the salary cap, guys, we can't have an all-star squad up from top to bottom. We're going to have holes just like everybody else. And if you look at this starting 11, you add Redondo and you take out Gressel, I'm sorry. We could kick everybody's ass. Fuck everybody. We are going to whip everybody's ass. And I mean that. And now Galaxy hope that kick our ass.
Well, I mean, we just got to hope that he signs on any sort of paper at this point.
I know.
Because there's still no report. Everybody's saying he's in the bag, but there's still no report. This guy's still in the bathroom stalls here at Drive Pink Stadium.
Well, relax, though, because you just do drug paraphernalia. I don't know how that came out yesterday.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I could throw that anywhere I want, okay? It counts.
Look, I think our starting 11 can mollywop absolutely anybody in this league. But we'll see. Like I said, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe the Galaxy's going to whoop our ass. But to go ahead and preview Sunday night's game, Sunday primetime, 9 o'clock, we have Alex Ruiz that covers the LA Galaxy. He has a Substack, but I'm going to let him tell you more about that. So to talk about the Galaxy, here we are. Alex Ruiz, how are you doing, sir?
Hey everyone, how's it going? Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, getting ready for Sunday's game. Really excited. I think everyone's excited here in Los Angeles. It's going to be a big event. Like you said, prime time on Sunday. So, this should get a lot of eyes in the soccer world.
Oh, and LA for sure. It's prime time, 9 o'clock Sunday night. It's going to be the only game on. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be quite the event. It's going to be similar, if not even better than the LAFC game was in September, because I mean, that was technically in the middle of the season already. Like, This is the first game of the season for the Galaxy. It's going to be crazy out there. Before we get there, since I just mentioned LAFC, I was starting to ask you in the back room before we went live, and I kind of want to ask you now that we're finally recording. LA Galaxy was the only team in LA. They ran the city, and they were basically MLS's teams, right? That was the team in MLS. And then LAFC showed up a couple years ago. How is that? Like, how did all of a sudden a new team come? Because you expect that when there's a team that is like subpar. Like in New York, the Red Bulls never won a championship. The Red Bulls had, they were been around forever, but they never did anything. NYCFC shows up. That makes sense. But the Galaxy, I felt like ran LA, and then LAFC comes into town. How did that come out? And how did that make people in LA feel?
Yeah, I mean, look, LA isn't a stranger to having two teams. I mean, you have the Clippers and the Lakers, you have the Rams and the Chargers, you have the Kings and the Ducks. You can go on and on with sports. Obviously, the Galaxy had held LA for a long time, and with the introduction of LAFC like 7 years ago now, it definitely changed a lot of the landscape. And I think the one big thing with LAFC is they've definitely captured their own fan base a lot more, and I guess what they would call the heart of the city in downtown LA. The BMO Stadium is located right at Exposition Park, right in downtown LA. LA Galaxy Stadium is, 15 minutes down the 110 in Carson, California. So not necessarily in LA, but I mean, look, it's definitely interesting. And, it's a good dynamic, I think, when it comes to building a rivalry and building something very special that's in MLS. I mean, I think every MLS fan tunes in to watch the LA Galaxy LAFC games. They're always full of passion, very intense. You can tell each player plays, for the badge in those games. And it's definitely elevated. I think the LA Galaxy, it's pushed them to be better. And we're seeing that in the last couple of months as they've made a lot of changes to their front office staff, to people around the club and, covering the team for the last 4 years. There's generally a very much better vibe this year compared to the last couple of years. And I think that's something that, LAFC in some part has helped by, having such early success in their franchise history that is pushing the Galaxy to become a better organization, to evolve within MLS. I think we're seeing that we're going to see all that this season as the club, looks ready, they look prepared, and they've got everybody set to face Miami and everybody else in the 2024 campaign.
So I'm sorry, I was sending Chris something. We have Sunday. How did you guys look in the preseason? Before the preseason, 2023? I know you said that it's been a down couple of years. What's the storyline heading into this season?
I think this year it just feels like a new regime is coming into the LA Galaxy. Last year, we go back a year ago, right? And you have all the support groups of the LA Galaxy boycotting games because they're not happy that, ex-president Chris Klein is returning to the club. This is something unprecedented. We haven't ever seen in MLS where all supporter groups are, saying they're not going to come back to games. We're seeing a lot of that negativity in last year's preseason, really start off as a team didn't win in their first 7 games. And again, you had injuries last season to key players. You had Chicharito out for a majority of the year. A lot of key figures like Gaston Brugman, Martin Cáceres, Caligari, key defenders that were gone for the season. And then all of a sudden their defense just crumbled. They allowed the most goals within MLS. And you really got to see that, this was a team just lucky enough to put bodies out there. And they really struggled on the defensive end. The problem wasn't scoring goals. It was just keeping lead, maintaining leads, being a consistent defensive unit. And they really struggled in that last year. We saw a lot of changes this year with the roster. We're seeing a more emphasis on defense whenever I've talked to players and Coach Greg Vanney. They very much emphasized needing to improve on the defense and that they've practiced that a lot in this preseason. So, yeah, last year definitely showed a lot of their holes and showed the Galaxy at their worst. But I think that's a blessing in disguise as they're getting ready to prepare for this year because they know what they need to work on. Again, like I said earlier, the problem isn't the attack. It's just, can they hold on to leads? Can they be solid defensively? I think this preseason, that's the one thing they've been trying to work on.
Well, and I guess that leads us to the next point. We wanted to know, how have they looked in the preseason?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Preseason can be a bit of a mirage sometimes. Like you see, they lost
sure.
3-0, but the second team was when all 3 goals were conceded, right? So their first team has looked really good. They're getting key players back. Ricky Puig missed some time this preseason, but he's coming back. Gaston Brugman, in my opinion, one of the best midfielders in MLS when it comes to ball progression. He was really, really elite alongside Ricky Puig. He's come back from his torn meniscus injury. Dejan Joveljic, who they're expecting a lot out of this year, he's come back from injury. So they're getting their pieces back. There's some momentum, garnering in their direction. And, they finished off their preseason with the win over the Red Bulls 2-0, where we saw the team play really well. They kept a clean sheet, which is very important. And we're seeing that there is this positive momentum building. And right now, compared to last year, it's a whole 180 where, we feel like, or everybody and everyone who, covers the Galaxy, we feel that, there's some seriously good signs coming this way. And, they have some reinforcements on the way. It's up in the air if they'll play or not this Sunday, but it's going to be interesting to see how they start the season because it's a lot better than last year.
And so what typically, when it comes to the LA Galaxy, what kind of formation do you guys typically play?
Yeah, Greg Vanney, very much a possession-heavy offense that operates in a 4-3-3. So you're going to see that a lot sometimes. They'll do, a 3-5-2 when in possession. But one thing we have noticed this preseason is they like to play a lot with inverted fullbacks. We've seen that formation used a lot, when they play in the preseason, which has never happened before since Greg Vanney took over 4 years ago. So this is a completely new tactical team, in my opinion, if they roll out with the inverted fullbacks. So I think I'm also watching to see if they use that because, again, it's preseason. There's room to, tinker and mess around with tactical tweaks like that. So I'm interested as well to see if they continue to use that, if they're going to stay very strict with their 4-3-3. Again, I right now, like I said, it feels like there's a lot of changes. And if that tactical change happens, I think that's going to affect a lot of how the LA Galaxy defend and, how they look like on the field. But most times they do end up starting games in the 4-3-3. And, that's generally how they play for the last 3 years under Greg Vanney.
Now, Alex, I have a question, and Mr. Krabs is actually bringing it up in the chat. He mentions that it sucks that Chicharito didn't work out for the Galaxy. How does the fan base feel about the fact that Chicharito didn't really work out, I guess, or meet expectations for the Galaxy?
Yeah, I think when you look at Chicharito's time with the LA Galaxy, it's kind of like a sandwich with the meat in the middle. Like the first year was, bad. The next 2 years pretty good, and then the final year very bad. So I think that it's very interesting to look back on his time with the Galaxy. Obviously, the fans very much respected him after that horrible season he had first year. Of course, he was dealing with a lot of personal stuff, but he bounced back in those next 2 years, and he gained a lot of respect of the fan base. But I think everybody in this final everybody in that final season saw that, the writing was on the wall that he was a regressing player. He wasn't looking as good technically. He wasn't looking as sharp. And there were just signs there that, he might have stayed here a year too long. Unfortunately, and unfortunately, his last game in MLS, he was sent off with a red card and he never got to see the pitch again at home for the Galaxy. So that's how he went out in front of the home fans in MLS play. So I think fans are excited to see, Dejan Joveljic maybe potentially take that next step. Obviously, there's room for them to get another striker in the transfer market. But nonetheless, I mean, Chicharito did what he could do. Obviously, you could tell that, very passionate about the club. He loved being here in Los Angeles, always playing with a smile on his face. Yeah, who doesn't love Los Angeles? So I was just saying, he just loved the club. And I think you really got to see that passion out of him in those 4 years he was here. But, everything has a time to go, right? So unfortunately, Chicharito is no longer with the team. But I don't think any LA Galaxy fans are crying about that.
And I meant that as there has to be nothing like being a Mexican playing in LA. Like it's like being playing in Miami.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had a lot of that Mexican pool for sure with a legend like Chicharito, right? Mexico's all-time leading goal scorer. So, I mean, he definitely brought a lot of fans to the stadium. Obviously, on the other side of town, you got Carlos Vela also did that for a long time. And, across MLS, obviously, there's a lot of other players. I mean, Nacho comes to mind as well. So, I mean, he definitely had a strong hold of the fan base and definitely, put butts into those seats at Dignity Health Sports Park.
How
And
fun was
Danny,
it with Zlatan there? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
no, before you get to talking about Salta, while we're still talking about Chicharito, Eurosider's mentioning he's a streamer now, and Johnny Depp is saying he's better in Call of Duty than he was with the Galaxy. This is not true.
Yeah, he's been a streamer for like 3 years now. He's been streaming a lot. Like even when he was with the Galaxy, like he's established that. I think, he played, or he's part owner of a team in the Kings League, which is Piqué's like little league that he started in
Yeah.
Spain. So
Yeah.
he's very much involved in the internet shenanigans per se. So he knows a thing or two of the online world. He streams a lot of Call of Duty. I think his TikTok is just like highlights of him playing or him looking at his old highlights or whatnot. But yeah, he streams pretty frequently. I don't know how much anymore. Personally, since he left the Galaxy, I haven't really been paying much attention to him. But yeah,
Right.
he's been doing that for like a hot minute, guys.
Yeah. How was the Zlatan experience there?
Zlatan, I mean, it was just, I don't know, it just felt like out of a movie, though obviously his first entrance here,
His
helping
first
the
game was so
Galaxy.
awesome.
Yeah, starting out, basically birthing the LA Galaxy LAFC rivalry.
Mhm.
And with that ego, but he has he can
The
walk the
charisma.
walk, exactly. He does all that. And he's just, the perfect person to be a superstar in MLS, a different personality than a lot of the other players we have. And I think that's very much needed when you're trying to grow a league, and especially a big name like Zlatan. But yeah, very disappointing. Galaxy weren't able to win any trophies with him in those 2 years. Big what if in LA Galaxy history for sure.
And Richard Greenberg saying kind of like the Messi experience. Not exactly, but I still think that Zlatan is like right there, like right under Messi as far as like impact. As soon as he hit the pitch here in MLS, like man, that was a show. And just his debut. Like the only reason I put the Messi one a little above is because it's Messi and because
It
he
was the
won the
finish.
game with that free kick.
Yeah.
But if you haven't had a chance to watch Zlatan's debut for the Galaxy, that was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. I mean, you couldn't have written it any better.
All right, so you told us 4-3-3 inverted fullbacks, and for those of you that are wondering what inverted fullbacks are, that's when they push into the center of the pitch a little more than just constantly playing out wide. Just in case anybody was wondering. All right, as far as the LA Galaxy go, what would you say is the biggest strength and the biggest weakness of the Galaxy?
I think the one thing is that they're very good possession team. I mean,
Okay.
you guys talked about it earlier, right? RSL definitely had moments in the last game against Miami where you're
Mhm.
just like, where are the runs? Where's the movement? You could tell this team isn't used to playing that style. But the Galaxy, they've been doing that for 4 years now. They know the patterns of play. They know where to make the runs. They know how to position themselves to be
That's
prepared
scary.
if they lose the ball, right? So this team knows how to move. Greg Vanny, very much possession reliant. They haven't switched away from these principles in the preseason. So, if you saw Miami out there, for like 20 minutes in the second half trying to, they were struggling to get possession. And, if Arcel made a bit more runs, had better movement, they definitely could have had more chances. I think if you put the Galaxy in that same scenario that RSL was in yesterday, Galaxy would have at least put 2 goals on the board, at least minimum. This team just knows how to attack. Like I said last year, their struggle wasn't with goals. They knew how to get movement in the box. They knew how to put people in dangerous positions. They knew how to create chances. So this team's going to know how to attack Miami. And, if they let their guard down at 1 minute, they'll be sure to expose it. And, with a player like Ricky Puig, who, can create magic at his feet, who's very much a complete midfielder when it comes to the offensive side of the game, like he'll definitely be a catalyst for the LA Galaxy.
Well, and that's scary because we have a guy named Serhii Kristoff that we're definitely afraid of being slower than quicksand. So that'll definitely destroy us in that case. But I want to hear a little bit about the Swiss cheese on your team. Where are the holes at? Where can we see some weaknesses?
Yeah, I think maybe 2 things come to mind. Obviously, it's a lot really early in the season to say like a big weakness for sure. I mean, the Galaxy haven't played yet, but obviously
Right.
one thing to keep an eye on storyline is, watching this game is just how their defense looks. Their center backs are going to be Mayo Yoshida and Martin Cáceres, who have a combined age of 75 years old. So, I mean, they aren't the most athletic. They aren't going to be making runners, but I mean, again, Luis Suarez really isn't going to be, that scary in open space, right? Obviously, you got to watch out for that box movement and the way he, interacts with the rest of the offense as well. But I mean, for sure, the defense is going to be something to watch. They added a new right back, Mickey Yamane from the J League, one of the top players in the J League for the past 4 years. So this is going to be his first big test with the LA Galaxy. Maya Yoshida and Cáceres, both veterans, both know what it's like to play in these big games. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two pair up, because this is going to be the first time they've ever played together for the LA Galaxy. They previously played at Southampton together for like half a season back in 2015, I think. So, it'll be interesting to see how they do. And then the Galaxy have a left back, Julian Alde, young Argentine player, very highly touted guy between in Argentina's U20 circles. Big talent, really struggled last year a bit to acclimate to America, to the travel and all that MLS requires. So, I think, playing against Messi, he's going to be extra motivated. Obviously, someone he grew up watching. So I'd expect this defense to, be something to keep an eye on. How do they perform? For sure, everybody on the LA Galaxy is going to be watching how they perform. So it'll be interesting to see. And also another, I think, weakness or right now a known variable is their attack, because, they lost Tyler Boyd, they lost Douglas Costa, they lost Chicharito. And then
Big
now they're
losses,
kind of, and now the front three is basically Dejan Joveljic, who's had little minutes this preseason, Diego Fagundes, who's, going to be his first full season with the LA Galaxy, and MLS veteran. And then on the right wing, you don't know who's it going to be. Is it going to be their new DP signing, Gabriel Peck, this 23-year-old Brazilian with a lot of pace, a lot of flair, a lot of things that you'd like to see out of a player who can be direct? Or could their new DP that they just announced the other day, Joseph Painstill, be available to play? We don't know who's going to be filling out that other wing. It's very much up in the air. Peck, for sure, I think it's going to play on Sunday. Painstill's up in the air. So, again, I think there's a little bit of questions in the Galaxy attack, how they're going to look against Miami, who's going to start. So, right now, their attack, compared to last year, just doesn't look as solid as, woven together well. They don't have that chemistry as much playing together. So, that might be something to watch this year.
But
good.
No, I was gonna say I love hearing what you're just saying right now, because that screams not enough cohesiveness, and the more teams that have less cohesiveness, the better for us, especially in the beginning of the season. So I love that fact. But wait, Danny, before you get to your next point, I want to just bring this up real quick. Mike V, Alex, you've stumped Mike V, because Mike V usually comes out here and he gives everybody sort of a Wish character of how they look. I don't know if you saw earlier, he said you look kind of like a Wish Rey Mysterio Jr. and I thought it was great, and he's fun, and all these guys, you stumped him. So they're also mentioning that you look like a Timu Victor Ulloa. So I don't know if you know who Victor Ulloa is.
Yeah, I know that.
Victor
I mean, I've been told that I look Filipino. So today.
Yeah.
So
Oh my goodness.
Are you Mexican?
yeah, I'm Mexican.
Okay. All right.
And Hammy is mentioning he's mentioning here in the Super Bombs that Alex looked like the shift leader at GameStop. Listen,
well, it's just
I'd love
because
to be a
Alex
shift
is
leader.
young.
They make bank.
No, and I wish I was as young as Alex.
Yes.
That's what I really wish.
Absolutely. Yes.
With that inverted fullbacks, does that mean, and obviously we haven't played a game yet, right? But would you expect them to be more susceptible to getting attacked wide, and then with low crosses coming into Messi or Suarez in the box? Like, is that something that maybe in the preseason, if you saw it happening, were they more susceptible to being attacked up on the wings?
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting, I think, because what I saw from preseason the last couple of weeks is they're actually looking pretty good defending out wide. I think when you play with inverted fullbacks, it kind of allows your wingers to, be able, you can push one up, one can come down. I think Gabriel Peck, if he plays, he's a guy who has that defensive work rate with him. Like, he's not just a purely offensive player. That guy will track back. He's got speed. He'll cover spaces. He'll cover crossing angles. He'll do that. So if he plays, I'm expecting, whatever side he's on, he's going to lock down that defensive side as well. But, like I said, the fullbacks, Yamane and Alde, very fast, very quick. It's mostly Yamane, the one who plays the inverted fullback. Julian Alde, goes out wide, still plays a regular fullback. Kind of think of it as Liverpool with Trent Alexander-Arnold, how they'll kind of do that, and then they'll have Robertson on the other side, kind of flanking down that. So if you want to use that tactical system, I'd use that to compare the LA Galaxy. But they're definitely going to use the ball as their best defense, because that's their philosophy. That's how they play. Again, if Ricky Puig is out there and Gaston Brugman's out there, they're definitely going to, not be slow. They'll progress the ball forward. They'll do things to move the ball, keep the defense honest. But at the moment in preseason, defending out wide really wasn't too much of an issue. The main issue is just not losing the ball in the build-up. Again, that was kind of one thing they kind of struggled with last year. But again, they were missing their defensive midfielder. They were missing Ricky Puig for the final end of the season. So yeah, I'm expecting them to be a little bit sharper in that department. And I definitely think that, they'll hold their own out wide. But again, anything's possible in soccer. So especially when you're against Leo Messi, it's very unpredictable. But that could
For sure.
definitely be one area of weakness that the Galaxy might not have seen too much in preseason. That I think could be something that could get exposed Sunday night.
So you guys hold possession like we do. You're iffy in the back line like we are. So this is going to be an interesting game because, I mean, we both want to hold possession and we both are not sure how our defense is going to hold up. That's okay. All right.
I mean, this game could end like 5-4, to be honest. Like, I could generally
my
see that happening.
That's a dream.
Yeah, I was supposed to say Chris loves that. All right. So let's say, hypothetically, I want to put money on this game and I want to put money on Miami. And you're going to convince me as to why Miami has a chance to win. Why does Miami have a chance to win on Sunday? What do they need to do to take advantage of?
I mean, aside from the obvious and Lionel Messi, I think right now the Galaxy is, I wouldn't say work in progress because they've made their signings, but they're still retooling, retweaking. They're not at the final product yet. And, sure, Miami had that long preseason tour that wasn't too great, but I mean, they have chemistry. They have their roster. They've played these games in different areas. They're just going to be traveling here. They travel to Saudi Arabia, to other places around the world. Like, they're not going to be, too intimidated by traveling to LA, I think. So, I mean, I feel like like I said earlier, like this team just isn't fully there. Like the engine isn't running completely. They're not running at full speed. They're still trying to get some things together. Yeah, Galaxy. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Galaxy is still trying to get things together. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if I see, some moments where they look stumped in the attack or where things aren't working and, they get too ambitious, give the ball away in a bad area, and their defenders get caught out. Like I said, Yoshida and Cáceres, they're not going to run too much. So if you can get on the fast transition, you can definitely take advantage of that. And I think if the Galaxy are con transition often in this game, Miami's going to have a lot of the momentum, and it wouldn't surprise me for them to put multiple in the back of the net.
And Football Corner's asking, he's asking you, Alex, how solid is the LA Galaxy goalkeeper? And that's pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know exactly too much information about the goalkeeper, and everybody's asking if Gomez scores a brace, if I'm going to sit out and wave for him. I'm not going to wave at freaking Gomez. Get out of here. So
is McCarthy your backup?
Actually, he's a starter now. The Galaxy today they released Jonathan Bond. They mutually agreed to part ways. Bond had been the keeper for the last 3 years. He was going to enter his 4th year. So yeah, they made the decision. They invested around, reportedly, I have yet to confirm this, but I might tomorrow because I'll be at a training, Galaxy training. They'll have a press conference to announce Gabriel Peck and Still. But yeah, they're good. They basically signed McCarthy from LAFC, and then this offseason as well, they invested around reportedly $1 million to Novak Mitrovic, this young Serbian goalkeeper. Came from the same club that Georgi Petrovic came from, the former New England Revolution goalkeeper, and the guy who's now starting at Chelsea. So, that guy's, the goalkeeping staff has been really impressed with him. They really wanted to invest with him, and they made his loan permanent this past offseason. But McCarthy's looked the most solid. He's looked a lot better than the other goalkeepers. He communicates a lot, very vocal in the back. I mean, looking at his stats last year, I was going to do this before I got on the show today for an article I'm going to write. But yeah, looking at the stats, I mean, McCarthy was like an above average MLS goalkeeper, like French top 10 goalkeeper statistically last year, like in between ranking in a lot of the statistical categories at like, 10 to, 14, right? In those categories, not top 10, but, very much fringe. And, he's had his moments, obviously MLS Cup a couple of years ago, but I mean, McCarthy's very much.
That was his biggest moment.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, that was his career defining moment right there.
Yeah.
And for sure, I think with LAFC last year, he had some good moments, some bad moments as well. But I mean, I think he's capable of being an above average goalkeeper. And I think that's all the Galaxy really need right now. They're developing Mitrovic. They're banking on him. I mean, in my eyes, McCarthy is a bridge goalkeeper for when Mitrovic, is eventually going to take over, since, they invested $1 million in a goalkeeper. You rarely see that in MLS. So I think, McCarthy is going to be starting. It looked good in preseason. Again, you don't know what it's going to look like in regular season. I do remember last year against LAC, he did like stop a Messi shot at around point blank range. So that gives you some confidence, right? And
I remember
him going against Miami. I mean, he's been against this team before, so he knows what to expect. But yeah, I mean,
he used to play for us.
Yeah, exactly. He used to be there, but obviously before, the whole Messi and Friends show
of course.
was there.
Right.
But I definitely believe that, McCarthy is capable of being a starting goalkeeper, and, the Galaxy and Jonathan Bond parting ways basically sets into stone that it's going to be McCarthy. I'd be shocked if it was Mitrovic. A bit younger, hasn't really played as much MLS minutes. I think McCarthy right now is the guy you want starting the season. He could maybe take over later on, but yeah, I'm fully expecting John McCarthy to be starting for the LA Galaxy.
McCarthy was the one that birthed that Selena Gomez meme where Messi got that shot blocked, and all of a sudden the camera went over to Selena Gomez, and her mouth was dropped wide open. That's gonna be interesting. I hope we put a couple on McCarthy. Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought he was a backup. I didn't know he was starting.
Yeah, I mean, this was breaking news this morning.
That's why I wasn't expecting that. You call him Puig, right? I called him Puig, but you said, how do you pronounce his name?
Pooch, like a dog. If you're gonna say Pooch, but Ricky Pooch.
I always said Puig, Pooch. So I saw somebody asking if he played with Messi. He was there. I think Messi's final season in Barcelona. But
he was there. I mean, he's talked about
he knows
being really close with those guys. I mean, he was there when Miami played LAFC, obviously rooting for Messi, and he got to take a photo with them after that game. But yeah, I mean, he talks about how Jordi and Sergio are big idols of his, big friends of his. I mean, he grew up idolizing Xavi. Obviously, Xavi was the one that eventually kicked him out of Barcelona, so that's definitely left a sour taste in his mouth. I mean, I can definitely sense that there's like a little bit of things like I think when Puig announced that he was going to change number, he said that he wore number 6 because of a childhood idol, and that's Xavi, and it turns out that's the guy who kicks him out of Barcelona, changes to number 10 now. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what it's like. Obviously, they're very close. He's very close with Messi. It's Suarez. He was there, towards the tail end of their Barcelona careers. But yeah, I mean, he was in La Masia when they were winning Champions Leagues, winning the league and stuff, when they were all still in their prime. So I mean, he's very much connected to those 4 players, former Barcelona players.
So real quick, you were just talking about Puig, and that's a player that everybody knows. But if there was a player that we should look out for that we don't really know much about, who would you tell us to look out for that maybe we haven't heard about, or just people don't really talk about too much?
I mean, like I said, the DPs are going to be up in the air of who's going to play or not. I mean, LA Galaxy fans are going to see their first glimpses of them. Gabriel Pex looked really good in Brazil. He was with Brazil's U23 team for the pre-Olympic qualifiers, so he's a highly regarded prospect in Brazil. I think one player currently on the roster that a lot of people would be surprised about is, I think, Diego Fagundes, obviously the former New England, Austin FC player. He's been in the league for a long time. I mean, he was on New England's bench back in the 2014 MLS Cup final where the Galaxy beat the Revolution, right? So he goes all the way back to those days as a 16-year-old. So yeah, and Fagundes has looked lively in preseason. He's looked really good. He's been creating chances. He's been a threat on the left-hand side. He's very much been the Galaxy's brightest attacking player so far in the preseason. And I think he could definitely orchestrate some things, pull the show out wide. Dejan Joveljic, we've seen flashes of him in the last couple of years, was a great super sub in the 2022 season, not so good as a starter last year. So if, the Galaxy can awake him, he can definitely be a sleeping giant for their attack and be somebody who causes a lot of trouble. And I think, all these LA Galaxy players are going to be motivated. Every time I've talked about the LA Galaxy in big games during Greg Vanney's tenure, I've always said this is a team that plays up to the moment. They're a team that always plays good, and when the lights are bright, when the cameras are on. I mean, go back a year ago, right, when they're playing LAFC in the Rose Bowl, right? LA Galaxy, Ricky Puig, all their best players played an absolute amazing game, spectacular game, and they're not afraid of that moment. They love that moment, and I think they're definitely going to be, using that rush from, this being the first game, from having so many people in the stands,
They played a lot smoother that game.
Yeah, I mean, going against some of the best players in the world, like this team gets up for those moments. They're a good team when you can, when the stakes are high. They play up to the level of their opponents, which is a good or bad thing, especially when, they're not playing some great teams, right? But yeah, I mean, this team's going to put up a fight for sure. It's not going to be a cakewalk, in my opinion. So I'm definitely excited to see some other younger players, like I said, Julian Alde, see how he does in this game. A guy who, grew up with Messi back in Argentina. Yamane, Yoshida, all those other veterans as well, how they perform in this high pressure situation so early in the season.
And let me tell you, that game that you just mentioned when the LAFC played against LA Galaxy, I thought that was a really, really good game that they played. And I was thinking that they were going to kind of ride the wave with that same gameplay. So, but now that we got the blood flowing here, and I want to talk a little bit about predictions. You mentioned 5-4, which I am praying for. I need that score in my life.
Chris is going to love something like that.
Oh, my God. That would be phenomenal. 5-4. Are you kidding me? I'll take that any day of the week. So we start off with our guests every single time, Alex. What do you think the prediction is going to be?
For sure, I think the Galaxy aren't going to keep a clean sheet. I just don't have that confidence yet in the defense so far. I think, like I said earlier, Miami, they looked vulnerable at moments, especially since RSL just don't look good in possession. And I thought if RSL were a bit better of a possession team, they could have scored a goal or two. So I am going to go, it's not the sexy thing to go for a tie, but I'm going for a 2-2 draw. I think that's the most realistic thing to happen. I think that both these teams are going to be pumped for this game. I think Galaxy are extra motivated, but I don't have faith in their defense. I do think that, Ricky Puig and is going to create some great chances. Someone's going to finish something. So I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw, 4 goals in this game. I mean, I think it's going to be a juicy affair.
And let me tell you, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, Chris.
Before you mention your score, Danny, the funny thing is our last guest, when we went over the RSL preview, also predicted 2-2, if I'm not mistaken, Danny.
I don't remember, honestly. I know that I predicted them to win by 2. I said 3-1 because I didn't believe that we can keep a clean sheet. And to be honest, we shouldn't have kept a clean sheet because I think that RSL should have had. There was one where I forgot the guy's name, was going into the box, and you had Chicharito right side completely open, and the guy was selfish and took the shot instead of hitting Arango was wide open. Do I think Drake could have stopped it? Possibly, but RSL did leave a lot of meat on the bone that game. I think they could have put up at least one in that game. But then again, Miami also had their opportunities. Like, who the hell sees that free kick that Messi took? That guy that they posted up on the right next to the post that headed it out. What did they do? And look, it was Miami deserved to win because I felt like they dominated most of the game. I know the second half was different, but all right, Chris, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So what are you going with? So what's your prediction?
Oh, you want my prediction? I'm going to go with Alex. I actually think 2-2. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I'm going to go with the draw. I don't think that we can keep a clean sheet. I think if they're playing a possession ball, they will take advantage of our back line. If they make those right runs. Now, the only thing that gives me hope is the fact that Alex said that relatively new group. So that chemistry and that cohesion isn't there. We're like 8 games into the season because of all the preseason games that we play together. Yeah. So I think that their cohesion isn't there. And that gives me some hope that they might miss some opportunities that they probably won't miss in like 2 or 3 months. So that gives me some hope. But I don't think that we'll keep them off the board. And I do think that we should be able to score, especially if their back line is questionable. I think Suarez finally gets one for us. I think Taylor is going to be saucy as always. And, and I thought Gresso looked good when he was in the final third. Like, yes, when he was in his own third, was turning the ball over like a maniac. But when he had the ball in the final third, I thought he was making good plays, good passes. He even took a couple good shots. So I think we'll put up at least 2. And I'm going to say draw, 2-2.
I'm going to, and I was just going to go with the same score as Soccer Daddy did with 2-1. Because I do think that the Galaxy actually have the ability and the skill set from certain players. I mean, look at what Tony Axe is mentioning here in the comments. All it takes is one ball from Puig to one of their pacey forwards. Mm-hmm. That can definitely be able to get us in our by our center backs. So I definitely do see that we will win, but I think that we may concede a goal. So I believe 2-1 is going to be the prediction that I'm going to go with. So
look, we won 2-0, and I believe that first half we dominated. The second half, obviously, things changed a little bit. But if you really think about it, that game we could have drawn or even lost. Like, if we could have drawn, they had opportunity that they missed out on. They could have scored 1. That Robert Taylor goal that we got, like, that goalie that McMath. I don't know how he let that Robert Taylor go in. It went right under his arm. Like, in all reality, we could have drawn. We won, and I think that overall 90 minutes, if you look at it, I mean, we were the better side, but, I mean, we could have drawn, so I wouldn't be shocked if we draw against the Galaxy. But, again, my hope is, like Alex said, relatively new group. Hopefully that cohesion takes a little while to get going, and maybe the lights are a little too bright for them. Like, because, I mean, everybody knows, like, it's not just a big game in LA. Everybody knows that everybody around the world is watching, and that also affects some of the players.
And Mike V is asking a question here, Alex. He wants to know, why does the Galaxy not give Puig some real support?
I think if they mean with like the wingers and stuff, I think
Yeah.
to start off, I think obviously Will Kuntz, who was promoted to general manager this past offseason, has changed the vision in the way that they want to acquire players. Obviously, we saw the last couple of DPs, right? Douglas Costa, Chicharito, players out of their primes, guys who aren't necessarily at their top levels anymore. And Douglas Costa doesn't really run too much. Same thing with Chicharito. Now you're really getting guys who are going to run after his balls, who are going to create moments, who are going to make those runs, who aren't afraid to make a run that gets caught out and they'll track back, right? Like these players are the hypothetical players you talk about on who would be perfect to pair Ricky Puig with. You got Peck, very vertical guy, someone who can, will chase after balls no matter what. And you have Paintsville, a guy who's a proven goal scorer, a guy who scored who had over 30 goal contributions last season for Genk in the Belgian league. So these guys are definitely going to have, their moments to feast. If whether it's Peck or Paintsville who comes in the second half, I definitely expect them to be catalysts and push that Miami back line to have their one-on-one situations and create danger. I think Miami at the end of the last game definitely looked like they had lost some of their legs. They looked a bit sluggish right in the second half for some parts of it. And if you have Peck or Paintsville running down the wing at you at full speed, I mean, they're going to take advantage of that, and that's definitely going to be a moment where the Galaxy are going to score, in my opinion.
Well, and that's where we suffer. Does the Galaxy press often? Like, I understand they keep possession. And my fear is whenever we finally play the Red Bulls, I think the Red Bulls could literally not win a game from now until whenever we win. They can go into that game 0 wins, 0 draws, all losses, and I'll still be fearful because we cannot, even though there were moments that we were playing nice in some tight spaces, but I'm fearful of that. Do they press?
Not really. I mean, obviously, I think every team has a player that's like their press trigger. I mean, I'm pretty sure when you see Miami play,
high press.
Yeah, but that's not a high press. They don't really play like that. They're not gonna, I guess risk it. As that pressing game. That's kind of what it is. It's just a risk. If you're gonna win that 1v1 battle, and the Galaxy don't do that. Very much a pragmatic team in their defensive ways. Like I said earlier, I think that they've been working a lot on their defense and they've been working on limiting those transition moments. And if you're a high pressing team, you're very susceptible to those transition moments if it goes wrong. So I don't expect Galaxy to be playing that New York Red Bull style football, but I do expect them to, have their moments where like, hey, let's press this guy a bit more. That's
what RSL did in the second half, and that's when we started to
tilt
suffer.
the field a bit more, right? Yeah. Like they'll have their moments there, but they aren't, running with a chicken with its head off, right? They're not running like crazy out there after the ball, but they're going to be very calculated in their pressing approach for sure.
All right, Danny. So enough about talking about. Once we brought up Red Bulls, I almost fell asleep here, Danny. You brought up Red Bulls. You guys started talking about Red Bulls, and I don't want to talk about that boring stuff. I want to ask you some battered questions here, Alex. So I've been bringing up some playful questions to all of our guests whenever they come on board with us. And one of the questions, which I'm just going to toss it right up here, you got 2 sandwiches here. Which one are you? Which one is the one that you use in terms of cutting your sandwich? Are you going diagonal or are you going north to south?
So we're going with the sandwich, like what ham? Like a regular ham sandwich?
No, like which way do you cut the sandwich? Do you cut it diagonally or from top to bottom?
I'm gonna go with top to bottom. I think that's the most effective way. It's the fairest way.
What the hell?
And I think, I mean, I eat a lot of peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Obviously, the diagonal, I guess, is what you would do. But for me, I personally prefer just the up and down like that. I mean, keep it simple. Come on. Don't complicate it.
Exactly, Danny. Get out of here. Get out. That's an efficient cut right there, Danny. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, my God.
What? I can't hear you. Your microphone almost died. So another one, Alex. When I go grocery shopping, you see a lot of people holding their shopping cart from the back like this, pushing the shopping cart. But look, I got my style. I pull the shopping cart. This is me at the local grocery store. Now, are you a pusher or are you a puller?
Oh, that's so interesting. I've never thought about it that way, but I do when I go grocery shopping.
Oh my God!
Tend to push it.
What's about to happen here?
Tend to push it. Like,
okay.
Like, look, I pretend that like I'm an F1 car driving that thing. I'm Max Verstappen out there. Got to be careful with close corners. Don't bump into kids once, which did happen, and I've been very careful ever since. I got yelled at by a parent. But yeah, it was. I'm definitely gonna be like, okay, I gotta make sure I got everything in front of me. Nothing stupid's going on here, and that's just how I roll.
Listen,
Well,
Danny runs over kids all the time in grocery stores.
You're like Joe said, you're like a homeless person pulling that cart away. Like it's ridiculous. All right.
Yeah, and that's about it. I mean, the last one, Danny, if you want to go ahead and ask that one, since you're a deranged maniac.
Oh God, the
With
cereal
the
question.
cereal.
All right.
Yes.
Last question, Alex, and then we'll call
let's
it a
go.
night. Alex, wait, you eat cereal by any chance?
Yeah, I had cereal this morning.
Okay. All right. So when you eat cereal, once the cereal is actually done,
Mhm.
do you slurp your milk like an oyster, or do you just toss the milk out?
Well, actually, I've been using this since I was a kid. I have a cup, but it has like a bowl that has like a straw in it, and I just drink out of that.
So he drinks it, Danny.
But he
So
drinks
it's
it with
not
the
like
straw,
a
though.
slurp.
No, but it's like
Yeah.
built into the
It
bowl.
is.
It's not like
I've
I get a
seen those
straw.
bowls. Yes,
Yeah.
What the
I've
hell?
seen
I've
those
never
bowls.
seen this thing. What is this?
I have. Yeah, Danny.
It's
you're
gonna
lost.
change your life. Trust me.
What the?
I'll
Well,
personally ship one to you if you need it.
I just dumped the milk, or I put more cereal in.
Well, I mean, I'm done after a certain amount. Obviously, not after the first time, but once I'm like, hey, I'm done with the cereal, now I'll just drink it.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's so sugary at that point because you got all the cereal residue in there. Oh, look at that! Look, everybody loves your straw bowl. That's the weirdest. I've never even heard of this thing. All right.
No,
Yeah, like I said, it's gonna change your life, right? Like I said,
No,
I'll personally ship you one.
No, I just add more cereal. I'm gonna stick to mine. I have to stick to my guns now because Chris talks a lot of crap. I'm gonna stick to my dumping the milk out or just putting more cereal in, which I feel like putting more cereal in is the correct answer. So
Look, everybody's questioning your life choices, Danny. Esther's saying dump the milk. What? I mean, there's literally people that are hungry and dying of thirst. And
That's
you're
exactly what my
dumping
mom
milk.
would say. Okay, so
well, then I
Exactly.
put
y'all
more
can argue with
cereal
my
in.
Danny's
mom. Y'all better have
sacrificing.
some respect.
Listen, and you guys don't understand something. This morning, apparently, there was a zombie attack, and we all missed it because everybody lost cell service. So, like,
Yeah, with
you guys
AT&T,
got to
right?
be
I think that was
prepared.
I never lost service. I don't know how did this happen. Everybody.
There's a
I guess
zombie
one last
apocalypse.
question that the football corner is asking, and then we'll call it a night. Messi or Ronaldo?
Interesting. I think Messi is probably the best player of all time, and I have Ronaldo CR7, one of the most clinical goal scorers of all time.
From the spot.
I think in general.
Not joking.
Yes.
All right.
But yeah, if we're gonna joke around Messi, Pinaldo, we can do that too.
All right. Alex, thank you for joining us and being a good sport. Let everybody know where they can find you if they want to hear a little more about or read a little more about the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, so you can read my work, my articles. Mostly is game recaps, analysis, looking at the team very deeply and throughout. At thegalactictribune.org. That's my Substack. And, at the bottom of my name right there, there's my X Twitter account at ALXRUIZ15, where I basically just post LA Galaxy news, analysis, everything there, all the stuff that you need to be fully covered about the LA Galaxy. I got it.
I agree. And then, Mr. Krabs, 12 years ago, there were bath salts. Those people were on bath salts, and they were literally biting people. It was wild. Wild times here in Miami. Well, Alex, we appreciate you joining us, having some fun with us, and are you gonna be at the game on Sunday, right?
I hope so. I've yet to get the email about
Credentials?
media credentials. I'm assuming that's gonna be tomorrow. I
When
mean, it's gonna be
when
packed.
Messi's around, when Messi's
Yeah,
around, it's
exactly.
really hard to get those
I
credentials.
mean, the press box at Dignity Health Sports Park isn't too big. I mean, this stadium was like made back in 2003, so it's in one of the old games in MLS.
Yeah.
To see, if I do get into the game, how it's going to look. I mean, it's been packed for LA Galaxy, LAFC games, but I think there's going to be a whole different beast, in my opinion.
I'm sorry, but Mike V just brought something up that I need to ask. You're Mexican.
All
Are
right.
you familiar with the chupacabra?
No, he's
Yeah.
he's Filipino, no?
No, he's Mexican.
Oh,
No, I said I get told I look Filipino often.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
but he's Mexican.
Yeah.
So you are familiar with the chupacabra.
Yes, very familiar.
Is it real?
Oh my goodness.
No, I'm pretty sure it was like a dog with the rabies that people saw something weird. So that's my theory. You should probably
It's
believe
still
me.
real.
I mean, it seems believable.
And then Solana went ahead and asked. I guess he's going to try to make it out to LA. He wants to know if you have any recommendation for good LA taco spots because he might be out there on Sunday.
Just I mean, I think definitely like some street tacos for sure.
Street
Don't
tacos, what everybody says. Just go
Yeah,
with
like,
street tacos.
don't ever get like some restaurant tacos or big chain tacos. You know, they just don't have that in it. They don't have it.
The sweat.
Yeah, exactly. Get some tacos made by real Latino hands. I mean, in the stadium, they've now added it now. But if you love pupusas, after they have a pupusa stand that they run in
Yes.
there, and a lot of that money, they're a
Hola
nonprofit, so they
pupusas.
donate that to kids in El Salvador, and they have a lot of resources going their way, and they have a soccer academy down there that they run. So if you're at the stadium, definitely buy from them and support them, and that's a really great cause that we've seen a lot of great things happen with them, and they're definitely a fan favorite within the LA Galaxy community, and they have like a lot of support from people within the LA Galaxy. So if you're into pupusas, you want to try them, definitely. If you're at the stadium, go to the After Pupusa shop. They have some great food out there. I definitely recommend it.
We're trying to keep it under an hour, but real quick, what the hell are pupusas?
So it's like this. I don't know. I'm not really from El Salvador, so I can't really explain it to you. It'd be like if I was white and explaining like tacos and stuff, how they're properly made. But like I think for me, it's like I would kind of not compare it to quesadilla because I feel like it's different, but it's made of like this bread and it's with cheese and everything, and it's like really good. I don't know how to properly
Like
explain
a
it to you.
bean spread. It's like
I wouldn't even. I don't even know. I don't want to disrespect it because again, I'm not from El Salvador. I don't really eat pupusas too much. I've only had pupusas from them, but it's really good. It's like like I said, kind of like a quesadilla, but like it's not really like a tortilla that you're used to. It's like a bit of a thicker bread, but not too thick. I don't know how to explain it. Y'all just
Are they
look
like
it up.
bootleg arepas? Are they trying to rip off us
Kind of
Colombians? Or are they
like
like
that.
bootleg
Kind of
arepas?
like that, I'd say. But I mean, I think it's really good, and like I said, after they do it for a really great cause and stuff, so they have a lot of
I
support.
mean, for the
from
cause,
members.
I won't bash it for the
Exactly.
cause. For the cause, I won't bash it. All right, Chris, 1-0. We are 1 win. We are top of the table. We are the best team in MLS right now. That's a fact. Best team in MLS right now. Do you have any final words? I mean, we'll be here again Sunday night after the game because we aren't actually at the game. We will literally be here right after the final whistle. Go ahead, put on your notifications if you have to. We will literally be hitting that intro as soon as the final whistle blows. Chris, do you have any final thoughts?
Listen, I can't wait for the game, man. It's going to be a blast. And LAFC, they always play up to their competition. So I think that this is going to be a fun game.
So you're like an international
LA
journalist now,
Galaxy.
like getting it all confused.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Every time there's transfer rumors, it's always either
Yeah.
LAFC or LA Galaxy. I was confused. You don't even know anymore these days.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you are listening on audio, we appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Please leave us 5-star comment, review, all that other good stuff. And if you are watching on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe. And as always, for those of you that joined the chat and stayed with us all the way to the end, you guys are by far the best part of the show. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us all this time on Sunday. We hope you join us. The game starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we should be on here around 11 o'clock as soon as the final whistle. So we hope you guys join us for that. And until the next one, have a good one.